Hey everyone, so this video is going to be a little bit different to what you've seen before. See, YouTube put our memberships on hold, and while we get that back up and running, we thought, why don't we show some of the highlights from our members only vlogs for free to the public. That's you. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Supra land, where every single frickin' car is a Supra, and I had decided to ditch the green ones and make a new thing, which we did, and you know, it looks something sort of like this. And I've been 3D printing stuff the last few weeks to finally come up with this bad boy. He is solid. It's, you know, not printed out of individual elbows and clicked together like that one. So now, because it is designed on the computer, we've got a CAD model of that exact manifold and every single thing about it. We can then use that CAD model to generate actual jigs to help us cut and weld and assemble this manifold to be exactly the same as it is from the 3D printer and from the computer. You know, as if we had actually like metal 3D printed, which I would like to do, but I'd have to do a pretty successful GoFundMe on a 3D metal printer to make that possible. So in the absence of a metal 3D printer, I have done this. We have these jigs, which you can see I've printed writing on them here, There we go, to say 35mm radius, 49-degree bend. That is one of the bends that I need to make the first runner. And what we do, if we just put this bad boy here, is you get the actual metal bend that we're going to use. He, with, you know, it's tight on purpose. We pop him into the jig. Look down there, and here I'm going to spin this around so that you get some good light on this. That's better. So you look in there and make sure that the bend is really tight and flush to the end there. And then on this side, that angle there is 49 degrees. So we get a pen, we draw around there, and then we know exactly where to cut this bend. And here's all the other ones. You know, we've got a little bend and another little bend and a little 7mm straight bit and a 72mm long bit, all the bits to make up one exact runner on this manifold. And then once they're all done, that's where this jig comes in. This is the exact layout of one of the runners with all the, I'll put this the right way. I'll just sort of hold that together for a bit. It's got all the individual sections that we need to make, and what we can do, hold on, I'm just going to have to rescue this bad boy out of here. Give it up, give it up, give it up. There we go. We can place him in the spot he's meant to be after it's cut, and then this bolts back together. Boom, like that. And you can see we've got access in these areas to tack them together, tack all the pieces together, bam, 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 bam. And then once we pop this jig back apart, we should be left with, you know, a metal runner, which is exactly the shape and dimensions that we need to make the manifold. Obviously, times 6, we've got to do another 5. And that is how we're going to do it. The next problem I had is, obviously I need to bolt the flange to the jig, but I also need to attach the collector to the jig. And the collector doesn't have any way to attach things. No flat surfaces really, no threads, no flanges, nothing. It's just this awkward curvy shape thing. So, a couple of days of thinking, and I came up with the forbidden butt plug. What it is a dyno bolt with a bunch of stuff attached to it, and as you do up the nut, these 4 light blue tabs push out and grab the inside of this collector. So I'll show you how it works. I'm gonna wiggle the butt plug in there. And then we hold that, and we don't even need a spanner. We just turn this by hand. And then it holds onto the collector. That collector's like, I don't know, easily weighs a kilo, and it just grabs it tight. You can see, you look in there, you can kind of see what's going on with those little grabby bits. So that meant I was able to find a way to hold the collector and have it hard, flush, and well located in the exact right spot. So all that's left then is to turn this thing into something much bigger that also holds the flange in the right spot relative to the collector, and that is over this way. Why won't my camera point the right way? Because I'm an idiot. In the office. Coming out of the 3D printer right now is the big jig. So obviously the metal flange will bolt onto this section, and then up here, this is currently building up to a spot where the forbidden butt plug attaches up there and holds the collector in the right spot. And then I just need to finish printing out all of those runner jigs and all of those little angle doobie watsits for cutting the elbows, and we should be able to make these manifolds just like you could almost give all the jigs to a monkey and they'd be able to cut it and tack it together and make it come out exactly the same every time. And that's really interesting to me because it means I can actually entertain making more manifolds than just my ones. Like other people that want turbo manifolds, I could probably put them together for not too ridiculously expensive, just mostly ridiculously expensive. And you know, if I did it the other way, the like very hand-built way as the green ones are, to be honest, I would never, ever, ever make any more for anyone, because it would just take like, oh, I don't know, something stupid like 40 hours per manifold to make, I'd say. Like you just sit there for a whole week and only do that manifold and you get one done. And then you do the same thing for the other side. So to be worth doing it for another person would be like, sure, I'll do it for like $15,000 or whatever. So it's pretty exciting, the thought that I might be able to actually produce a quantity of these manifolds for other people that want to turbocharge them. And the fact that these manifolds are so much smaller and more compact means they're going to suit a variety of engine bays, not just the Supra. This was very Supra specific, because you can see like even the runners specifically bent around to miss the strut tower in this exact spot. And the shape of them wouldn't have made sense in a lot of other engine bays, and they just wouldn't have fit a lot of other engine bays, whereas I think those will. So it's been 4 weeks of just working over and over and printing massive things out over and over and over to get to this point, but finally have sort of nailed the way we're going to do the exhaust manifold. And the other really interesting thing that's happened is this, the throttle collector everything else bracket thingo. I know you've seen this before, I designed it a while ago, but now if you take a little peeky in there, it is CNC machine billet aluminium. It is the real deal now. So we got this sample made up, and it fits. In fact, it fits really good. So the plastic one is a bit flimsy, so you don't really know if I got the dimensions millimeter perfect or not, because the weight of everything would just drag it down and make it look wrong anyway. So I was sort of guessing a few things and sort of hoping it turned out right, and it did. I mean, you can grab this throttle body now and yank on it and nothing goes anywhere. It is really, really tough. It's braced and bolted to so many things, and it's going to get bolted to more and more things as those things get made. A few more parts are coming. They're in the mail now, including the thermostat housing and the water pump housing underneath it. And once they're in there, then there will be very little plastic left. It's all just going to be solid aluminium everywhere, and very, very tough. So I'm pretty excited, looking forward to that. Bracket was not cheap, because it comes out of quite a large bit of aluminium, and you need to machine like 98% of it away to end up with this spindly little thing, and machine it from multiple different angles as well. So, you know, it doesn't look like much in the end, but it did cost a lot to make. But I mean, it's important. It ties everything together. The throttle body bolts on down there, the throttle collector bolts on there, bolts to the head there, and bolts to the thermostat housing there, and the bit that's not on there, actually, that bit that I added on afterwards is where the actual radiator pipes bolt on as well, so that they're braced up. So it's a really multifunctional bracket that ties the entire front of the engine components together. So one of the next things I'm going to do, which I'm really excited about as well, is make up some plates to make up some plates to block the throttle body up and block the intake ports up, so that we can actually pressure test this entire manifold now that it's a rigid assembly and I've got that bracket. That's all I was waiting on. And we'll be able to wind pressure into this. I don't know how much. Maybe we'll put 40 pounds in, maybe 50, maybe 60. Hell, maybe we'll just open the tap to the compressor and put 100 pounds in it and see if it can hold. I don't know if any of the O-rings are going to struggle at particular pressures. I mean, the way they're designed, a lot of it is like a hydraulic ram. It should be able to take hundreds of PSI. But the actual plenum ones here, I don't know if there's going to be any flex under extreme pressure or whatever. So we need to prove it. We need to prove that this design is going to work and seal, because it's not like anybody's done this before. It's a pretty unique setup. God damn, that color looks brilliant, doesn't it? I really like it. So yeah, we're going to pressure test that. I think that'll be really interesting. And with that, well, my job's pretty simple now. I just need to keep going with these exhaust manifolds, actually sit down and cut all of the metal up and tack it together and put it in the jig once it's finished printing tomorrow, and see if this whole many jig thing actually works out. And if it does, I'll make all the rest of the jigs. It's going to be about, look, I worked out it's going to be close to about 100 different pieces, including the little angle cut jigs and the runner jigs and the main jig and the butt plug. It's going to be about 100 separate pieces to cover both manifolds. But they'll all be color-coded, they'll all be numbered or whatever, and you just go through them from 1 to 100, and when you get to the end, it's like, well, I've got 2 manifolds. Isn't that easy? So that's what I'm going to do. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to showing you how good or bad it goes and whether it all turns into a pile of shit. But one way or the other, I mean, back in 2004 or whatever it was, how long is that? 18 years ago, I built this business on what was initially just fabricating exhaust manifolds. So I know how to do it. I know what I'm getting into. I've made, you know, a freaking 100 exhaust manifolds. But I'm just hoping this time to make it more accurate and better and easier than I've ever done before. Shiny. As you can see, I'm printing another valve cover. This is for the left-hand side. The last one you guys would have seen was the right-hand side one. So we had to flip the layout and then change a whole bunch of profiles and hole positions and bolt patterns for the baffle plate and stuff like that. But it was a ton of work, but eventually got there. Now we've got 2 valve cover designs that look the same as each other, but they're not. And we've also got this. This is, well, an aborted print. I got halfway through printing it and then got COVID, and I couldn't change the filament over to finish it off, so that ended up dying halfway through. But there is one just like it, but actually finished, sitting in the car. Speaking of the valve cover, here's the first half of it as well. I'm absolutely loving how these silver printouts are looking, by the way. Look at that. It looks so close to metal. So really getting to visualize what it's going to look like. But this cross section we've got going on here is quite interesting as well. You can really see how the baffle sits inside the cover. And I always thought, for some reason, just visualizing, that there was quite a lot of room in there after you put the cover on all of these Toyota engines. But now I'm starting to see that things are really quite compact. I've just never had the advantage of seeing it from this sort of half cutaway perspective before. Anyway, I find that interesting. You guys probably don't, but I don't care. What's quite noticeable now is that the engine is really actually noticeably more sunken down in the bay. It actually looks like it's a lot more meant to be in there. It's hard to really give that perspective on camera because it's just a 2D image, but believe me when I say it looks so much more like it's in there now. Another thing which is contributing quite a lot to the engine sitting as nicely as it is now is I decided to make these little subframe spaces. They're bright orange at the moment. You can just see one there between the chassis rail and the subframe. Essentially what we got to after I mounted the transmission up actually higher than I ever have. I've really pushed the limit in terms of how high we could get it. That made it so the intake manifold was, I'd say 2 or 3 millimeters off the inside of the bonnet up here. Sorry, hood. You guys don't have bonnets. Kids wear bonnets. There was pretty much 100% chance that my lovely billet bits would end up getting scratched on the hood. So I decided to do something that I really was trying to avoid the whole time, and that is to space the cross member down. What it's ended up being is 8 millimeters that I've taken off it, which by the time you get to the front of the engine, because obviously you know, it's dropping it from a point further back. By the time you get to here, it's about a full centimeter drop down. So in theory, I've got about 13 millimeters of clearance till this now, which is, I mean, it's enough to even fit that original cladding back in, but I'm not going to put it there. But 13 millimeters, I think, is a really healthy amount of clearance for the engine to a stock hood. Yeah, I'm super happy with that. I think that's something that no one else doing V12s into Supras has quite achieved yet. Having it all fit inside with a stock hood. I think everybody so far, because of the compromises they have to make with the sump and everything else, even with dropping the cross member down, they're still running aftermarket hoods which have vents in them and allow a lot more engine height before it hits anything. So I might be wrong, but I'm gonna just go with, yeah, this is the first time it's been done like that. I'm about to have a bunch more bits made out of not plastic, including this little coolant housing here. I don't know if I've ever really shown you guys the completed housing. I don't think I have, because I've made adjustments and variations to it over and over and over to finally end up with this guy here. And I didn't actually order it to be made yet, because I expected after I made the aluminium water pump housing that the dimensions of things were going to shift, because the plastic, as I've said before, is just not accurate to like 0.1 of a millimeter. And yeah, sure enough, after I did everything out of metal, this guy here ended up being about 1/4 of a millimeter in the wrong position in a diagonal way. So I redid the model to shift it that 1/4 of a millimeter, and now it lines up perfectly with the thermostat housing. So we can finally make that one out of metal, and that should be a complete thing there. On topic of the thermostat housing, I've kind of fucked up. I don't like admitting that I fucked up, but it is entertaining, so here you go. It turns out that groove I made for the thermostat O-ring is just too narrow. I did do some measuring to come up with the width that we've got here, and further to that, after I printed one out of plastic, I did push a thermostat O-ring into it and it fit. But now that I've made it out of metal, it doesn't fit. Like, there is literally 0 ways to get the thermostat and the O-ring in there unless I was to slice the O-ring with a Stanley knife to make it skinnier. I tried aftermarket O-rings to see if I could get around it that way. No go. They're just as thick as well. So, you know, I think I'm just going to have to actually remake this bastard, which is annoying because it's like really expensive. I got to widen that by about 3/4 of a millimeter to make the thermostat and the O-ring actually sit in there comfortably. So that's life. I'll live with it. How good's all this stuff on the bench though? I'm not sure if I've discussed it before as well. I don't think so, but I'm not 100% thrilled with the finish of these plenums, so I'm going to I found a guy that does really, really high-end show quality polishing. So I'm going to have them polished to a mirror, you know, all the actual machining marks taken off it, which upsets me greatly, but the end result, I think, after they've been mirror polished and then anodized in the same sort of gunmetal color as I had the first ones done, I think that'll make them look like the really nice renders that I've been doing of the intake manifold on the PC, because they've got a very smooth polished appearance, no texture or anything, and I think that looks amazing. So I'm sort of like, yeah, I didn't want to have to do this, but the end result is probably going to look more amazing than anything I've had so far. So fuck it. What's another $1,000 or something? I don't care. I am still working on the exhaust manifold stuff. I'm waiting to actually start fabricating this side before I spend a week modeling the exhaust manifold for that side, because I want to see if that this method that I'm using has screwed anything up, or if I need to change it, which could end up impacting the final design of these manifolds. That's all I've got for now, so till next time.